A few years after her infamous voyage with demigod Maui, Moana is tasked with discovering a hidden island that is said to be able to unite all the people of the ocean. Film fans of YouTube, hello and welcome back to the channel. I am Josh, your Movie Apprentice, and today I am looking at Moana 2, the sequel to one of my favorite Disney films of the last decade. Directed by David G. Derrick Jr., Jason Hand, and Dana Ledoux Miller, and starring the voice talents of Alui'i, Cravalho, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and Awhimai Fraser. This is a movie that I was moderately excited for. I'm a big fan of that original Moana. However, all the talk going into this was that it was originally supposed to be a TV series. So the fact it was made into a movie gave me some cause for concern purely because it reminded me a bit of the old VHS direct-to-video sequels that Disney used to do 20 or so years ago. And Moana 2, as expected, does not hold a candle to the original. Whilst animation since Moana has gone above and beyond to try and break the four kids stereotype that animated films sadly still has to this day, this film unfortunately grounds itself within that stereotype and doesn't even try to break away from it. I'm going to say up front that yes, this movie has made a lot of money and a lot of families are really enjoying this. And yes, if you want a nice family film to take your kids to that doesn't require very much thinking, and it's a nice fantasy adventure, then you're going to enjoy it. So go take your kids out. It's Christmas. Let them enjoy themselves and enjoy a fun time with the family. But as a film, overall, especially when comparing it to animation of the last few years and its predecessor, Moana 2 does not quite hold a candle to the original. To start off with, Moana was built on the back of the relationship between Moana and Maui and their bond as this mortal young woman is going out of her way to save her people and brings a demigod into line. In this one, they are separated for about half the movie, and the resolution that brings them together feels underwhelming to say the least. So when things get emotional in that final act between the two of them, it's very hard to get invested because it very much relies on you, the viewer, having seen the previous one. Because if you were just watching this one, you would not have the emotional connection that those of us that watched the previous one would have. There's also this trend of bigger and better for the sequel, and Moana does this by not only bringing Hey Hey along, but also the pig and three stooges that each are supposed to serve a purpose on the ship. And it feels like they were very much copy and pasted from the sidekicks in Lightyear. That's how they felt in terms of what they do and what they contribute to the movie. Apart from some gags, there's very little to really dive into with these characters. There's one character that's a stereotypical crazy mechanic scientist shipwright that probably has the biggest moments out of the three of them, but the other two are devolved to just being grumpy and being a Maui fanboy. That is their whole character. And whenever the film teases at these side characters having a bit of an arc, it unfortunately immediately backtracks on those. As for the music, the original one had How Far I Go, it had We Know the Way, it had You're Welcome, even the song about no one leaving the island is something that sticks in your brain. This one, I don't think there's any songs in this that really stand out for me. There's one song that tries to be catchy and earwormy, but unfortunately, because we are so used to these previous movie songs made by Lin-Manuel Miranda, these don't hold a candle to it. And it fully delves into the musical aspect of this. With the previous Moana, all the songs helped carry a story, like they were still very much grounded within their reality when singing these songs. However, when it came to this movie, all the songs were very much in their head for the most part. There were several musical numbers that would just show the people singing in a whole different world and doesn't keep it grounded within the location that they are in. And that for me was a bit distracting. It very much took away from the immersion of the film itself. While it does have some strong moments in terms of characters, like the Kakamora plotline was an interesting one, but again, this one wasn't very fleshed out. There were also two villains teased for this, but one you never see, and one is built up in such a creepy, interesting way, and they do nothing. They are revealed to just be a bit of a red herring and just a way to skip to the third act. Now, I will give the film this. When we do get to the third act and the final confrontation, how to deal with that confrontation. It's a very tense sequence. It's a very entertaining sequence. And I feel like it came together really well. That is an element I really did enjoy about the movie. However, there are some elements in the final act that, for me, do not sit right. There's a particular thing that happens with Moana towards the end of the movie that, for me, kind of devalues the character for me a little bit, but I feel like I'm probably gonna be the minority for this one. Whilst I do like that they get this opportunity, it feels like it takes away from this mortal woman that just wanted to help her people and connect the ocean, like going above and beyond. This scene basically said you need to have special abilities in order to pull off what is coming next. And there are several moments in this that just basically wink at the camera and say, remember this, right down to Moana having a little sister at the start of this one, and they immediately do a mimicry of Moana telling Maui to board the boat. Like, a lot of the funny highlights are callbacks to the original. This one doesn't stand on its own 2 feet as a film. For me, Moana as a character in this just felt very reactive for the most part. Like, it starts off, they find a clue to this island, and they're already determined to find this island, but then for some reason we get a premonition to say, hey, you must go find this island, and suddenly they're having a hard time deciding if they want to go on this journey. She also gets a special title from her people that basically says, yes, you are tasked with finding the way, which she was kind of already doing anyway. I don't know. It just feels like we didn't need all these fancy titles or motivations to push them onto this journey. And the fact that we bring a whole crew with her to not really do much of them. This for me was just a classic letdown of Disney sequels. It feels like if we want sequels, leave it to Pixar to do them because they seem to do them quite well, whereas Disney on its own don't tend to do well with their sequels. This felt very much like a direct-to-video sequel. Honestly, no one goes out to make a bad movie, and this is an enjoyable movie. It's made a lot of money. It's brought a lot of people back to the cinema. And if you have family, you have young kids, go watch it. Your kids will enjoy it. They will have a good time with it. There was a family behind me when I was watching this, and the kids were having a whale of a time. So those of you with families, you're going to love this. But those of you that are fans of just animation in general, this film harkens back to a nice, bright, colorful movie to distract kids kind of animated movie. Doesn't really dive into too much in terms of themes and story progression. Moana is a difficult character to take further than her arc in the original movie. I just feel like where it took her felt very underwhelming. I wouldn't say this is a bad movie, but for me, it's just not a movie that I'm going to see myself revisiting purely because I hold the original so close to my heart. Moana 2 for me is a letdown. The songs are nowhere near as good. The side characters feel pointless. There is the blueprint of the director TV series that they said to do away with to make this a feature-length movie. That feels like it's all them stitched together roughly to create a cohesive narrative and tell a whole season's worth of plot in the space of an hour and 40. And that just didn't work for me. Before I get into my grade, if you like what you're seeing on the channel, click that like button and subscribe for more video views, video essays, and tier lists like this coming all the time. But without further ado, let's grade Moana 2. The original Moana is a fantastic movie, so this film was always going to have a hard time living up to that standard. And unfortunately, Moana 2 ends up just being a by the numbers sequel that doesn't really add too much more to the world and is very underwhelming. The songs are nowhere near the level of the original. The choice to have Maui absent from Moana for a good half of the movie, only to rush into big emotional beats between the two in that final half, just does not quite feel earned. Whilst it ends strongly for me and the final confrontation is really good, it just feels a little bit too late to make up for the lackluster narrative that we have seen for the previous half of the movie. So with that being said, I'm gonna have to say that for me, Moana 2 is a tea that has too much milk. So Moana 2, have you seen it? If you have, let you thought down in the comments below. Who are your favorite characters? What was your favorite moment in the film? I'm curious to see what the families thought of this, because I know they enjoyed it, and I know I'm gonna be the minority on there, but no shame on you for liking this movie. It's enjoyable for families, and it's a good way to get the kids out of the house to go to cinema together. So let me know what you thought. And until next time, everybody, I am Josh, I have been Movie Apprentice, and I'll see you all in the next video.